So when it comes to special effects, specifically magic, you can pretty much do whatever you want. But Marvel Studios also make sure that you have to conform to what they say. So let's talk about WandaVision, Doctor Strange, Loki, and other types of magic in the MCU. We know that by now there are rules to the Marvel Universe, how certain magic has to look, how it has to respond, how you have to conjure magic, what it's going to look like when a special effect evaporates, and all that. Like, there's a methodic approach to how they're handling everything, and we've seen recent concept art from WandaVision, for example, that shows how it changed because it had to line up with other things in the MCU. So recently, one of the visual effects supervisors, Ralph Mayers, talked with Polygon about the approach to creating Wanda's magic and how it took months to figure out what it was going to look like because they would constantly have to go back and forth with the people working on Loki, with the people working on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, with the people working on other projects that are going to have magical characters, and they revealed that essentially it literally took 3 to 4 months sometimes to get the final go-ahead that this is what it's going to look like and this is the final effect, because it had to line up with the type of magic that they're going to be using. So for example, let's say if you're conjuring up something and you're using an actual witchcraft spell, well, that has to look like a witch's spell when it comes to Loki or Doctor Strange too. If you're doing some other type of magic like teleportation, it should look one way if you're using the same type of magic. So they said that it took ILM sometimes way longer than it was supposed to because of all the other projects they're working on, and they would constantly have to go back and try to roughly get the same effect but somewhat change it, sometimes change the color, so you had this sort of understanding of when you see something that it reflects something else. And I think we all 100% understand that, right? You can't just change it every time. You can't just have one spell look like one thing and then the next time you see it, it looks completely different, because then you're breaking your own rules. And we see some of that throughout the MCU already. When Doctor Strange, for example, does his portals, we see how that looks and we see those effects pop up elsewhere when they need to for that same type of magic. Same thing with other spells. So it's going to be interesting to see what exactly Loki does in this instance, since they say that he's using the same type of magic but different color. Well, what exactly is he doing, and what's that going to look like, and how does that reflect what happens in the other projects? I mean, we know Loki's using illusions and all that, so clearly that has to play a factor into it, and we've already seen those special effects. But what other ones can he use? Like green conjuring? Is that going to look like Wanda's? Green projectiles? Or whatever else Doctor Strange might do in the next film?